Okay, this is the part two of the video. We completed the first one where we deployed the appliance and registered it to the Azure portal, plus we added the vCenter. Now, the second one is how do we replicate the VM? So here, if we go down right, we have an option to select the site recovery vault and then enable replication of VMware VMs. So which is exactly what we are going to do. And let's see how we can do it on the portal. Go back to the portal, click on the recovery services vault which we created, and then site recovery. So the first step is done. Let's go to enable replication. And here we choose machine type is virtual machine, not physical server. And the vCenter is the lab vCenter. So all this information is coming from the virtual appliance which we deployed and registered to the Azure portal. Now I am planning to do only this machine replication. So I'll just select this. This is nothing but the test server which I showed previously, which has the, if I go back to this, yeah, this is the server. This has a website. So I'm replicating that server. So I go back here, I choose to replicate this test server, click on next, and then the defaults is selected, but we can do for VM as well. So in my case, this is the ASR replication appliance. So what exactly this is if you have multiple appliance, you can choose which appliance you want to replicate the VM or use for replication. In my case, there's only one appliance which I deployed, which is here. So I'm using that replication appliance. And the credentials is the vCenter test VM and all the disk I want to replicate. And is there any tags we want to give? I don't want to enter any, okay, there's no tag. This is for the target machine name. Sorry about that. So target machine name, I'll just say static website server, something like that. So that's done and click on next and then target property. So here we have to choose what is the target properties because a virtual machine needs the network and everything. So subscription, I go with the same one, and the resource group, the same resource group which I created earlier, and configure the failover network. So here we have two options with Azure site recovery. We can do a test failover, we can also do an actual failover. So let's go and check those networks. I want to create a new network. I don't want to use existing one. So I just say create a new network. And by default, we have this Azure range. But let me probably give a name here as VM2 Azure VNet. And the address range I use 172.16.0.0 /16. Okay, I choose this and I will create subnet. I'll create two subnet. One is for the test failover and the other one is for the actual one. So 172.16.0.0/24. Okay, this is the subnet name. So I just say test failover sub, and then this is the range. And I create one more, which is actual failover subnet. And then I provide the subnet details here. So I choose these two, then click OK. Okay, so we created a VNet with two subnets. As I said, we can do a test failover. So what basically the test failover does is it kind of tests the replicated appliance or any virtual machine which you replicated, right? We can create that in an isolated network to see how the application behaves. If everything is good, then we can fail over to the actual one. So target subnet. But this is for the actual one. So I use the actual subnet which I created, and test failover network setting. I use a different network. So I kind of go and see, okay, it wants me to create a new subnet altogether for that VNet. Okay, I think I cannot pick. Okay, so let me quickly create an another series like failover network VNet. Or I can use the same VNet with two subnets for the network, but then I think it is two different VNet which we need to specify for test failover and also for the actual failover. So here maybe I will use, this is for test, right? So test, then let me go ahead and use the same one, and yeah, I go use the default one itself. Just go create that. Okay. Um, select the default subnet. This is basically which you can work it out yourself, like what network range you need. All you need to make sure is it should not overlap with any of the other connected network, be it any cloud or if you have a site-to-site VPN, you need to make sure we don't have any overlapping address spaces. And the replication settings, here we can use the default replication setting policy, which is like 24 hours. But if you really want to create a new one, we can go here and we can create a replication policy. So let me go with this. I create VMware replication policy. So the maximum recovery point we can have is 15 days. So I will just go with the max for now. Anyways, I'm going to tear down the lab after this. So if you want to do enable the app consistency, you can do that. So it will frequently take every 1 hour the app consistency snapshot. I just go with OK. So that's the replication policy. And then next. Okay. All right. So this one here, what is we need to create, a storage account where the replicating appliance from on-prem stores the replicated items temporarily. So we must use one storage account. So let me quickly go ahead and create one storage account as well. So I just open a new tab so that I don't want this wizard to start over again. So let's go here. And then I type in storage accounts. And then I create a new one. And I use the same resource group. We enter a storage account. Oh, okay. Storage account is cases. So VMware to Azure storage account. And the region is Southeast Asia. And I'm going with the standard. And I don't want to go for a geo redundant. I just go for the local one. Then next, this the default security, the network. For now, I just go with the default one. Data protection, I go with the default. Encryption, I go with the default. Tags, review, and create. I hope once the storage account is created, it does shows here. If not, I will just go with the default one, which the cloud itself suggests. So let me see. Okay, this is created. Will it show here? I don't think so. Unless I refresh, it will show me that. Never mind. Then I will just go and choose the default one, which is prompted by the ASR thing itself. Then go next. So maybe we need to prepare this. If you really want to use a specific storage account, then you can create it and then come back and fill the details here from start. I just didn't want to go with again doing all these things, so I just go with the default one and I enable the replication. So we can see it is enabling the replication for one VM. So we would see this once this is completed, right? If we go back to the replicated items here, we would see the replications happening. So with that, we will be finishing the step 2, which is here to enable replication for a given VM. So just to recap on what we did in this is we logged into the portal. We went to the site recovery option in the Azure Recovery Services wall, and we clicked on enable replication. And here we just need to fill in the details of which VM we are trying to replicate from on-premise and using which appliance. So in our case, we had only one replication appliance which we deployed, and we used that to select the VM. And since we already provided the credentials, it took that default credentials which we provided, and it is enabling the replication. So when you enable replication, it needs few things because when you do a failover, the VM needs a network. So in Azure, we have like two types of options, right? In site recovery offers, one is the test, test migration, or we can say test failover, wherein we can provide a separate isolated VNet where we can go and fail over that machine there and see how things work. You can ask your application team to test if everything looks good. Then we can go with the actual failover. So for this, we need to create two different VNet. So initially, I thought with one VNet, we can create two subnet and use that for test failover and actual failover. But it didn't allow me to choose that. So I went and used two different VNet, one for the test, one for the actual one. So now, after doing all those things, we just enable the replication, and the replication is getting enabled for that VM. We'll just give it some time. Okay. So I was just waiting for the replication to be completed, but then the replication it failed while doing the enable replication, and I see it failed in the place where it was trying to install the mobility service agent to enable the replication, but then it failed. So let's click on the fail. Internal record. Okay, so this is because UEFI secure boot is not supported. All right, so I think on the source VM, I need to change the boot type. I think there is a step to do that to convert it from UEFI to BIOS or something. Let me check if I can quickly do that. If not, we can try the manual way of installing it. So it should be somewhere in the BIOS boot options. Okay, I need to change this to a different one, but for that I need to power down this VM. Okay, let me do that. If not, I also found out a way to do a manual installation, wherein we can install the mobility service agent manually. So if we go here, these are some of the steps. I will share this link as well. So we just need to copy the installer from the appliance, which means the appliance what we deployed, right? If we go to E drive and then software, agents, you will see this agent installer here. So we can use this to paste it in the source machine and do the registration manually. But that one is also a little process wherein we have to copy the installer and run few commands to install it on the source machine which you're trying to replicate. Plus, we have to generate a configuration file to register the source machine to the appliance. So maybe let me try the error message. Let me try to fix that first. And if not, we will go with the manual way of doing things. Okay. So I just read an article where the UEFI boot is supported uh, as long as the secure boot setting is disabled. But when we went ahead and checked our server, right? So when we go to the edit settings of the server, which we're trying to replicate, and VM options, and then we go to the boot options, we see that the secure boot is enabled. So if we uncheck this, click OK. Okay, because the VM is powered on, we cannot do that. So let me quickly go and shut down the guest. Right, so this is a good thing. I mean, I think quite a few of us will hit this issue. So let's see how we can fix it together. If not, in past I've also done the manual way of installing agent. Will share that link as well. That's a little tricky one. I mean, we need to follow two articles to have the agent installed first and then register it with the appliance. So let me try this first. I'll go ahead and edit settings. Again, VM options. I go to boot options and then I uncheck the secure boot option as recommended by the Microsoft article. Secure boot setting is disabled. Okay. So the secure boot is now disabled. So we can check that again to double confirm. Boot options, yes. So it is disabled. I'll go ahead and power on the VM now. So once that's done, what was the other recommendation with this error? Critical. So okay, it cannot be configured. Check the failed enable function. Resolve the issue. Disable the protection on the virtual machine, then and enable the protection. Okay, so I think we resolve the issue by disabling the secure boot. Now we'll just wait for this machine to be up. And once this machine is up, we'll do just basic checking, like if our website is still working. And then we will disable the protection for this machine and then enable it again to see if the agent gets installed automatically. If not, we will go with the manual way of doing things. Okay, so the machine is booted up. We log in. Okay, so I'll just quickly check the website. It should work, but generally this should be the practice before we replicate any application server. We just need to first check if the application, everything is working fine, and then check. So let's type in localhost. Yes, the website is still working, so should be fine. Now let's go back to the portal replicated option. I will go and disable. So where did I come from? So if I go here, home, and then I went to the recovery services vault which we created, then I go to the replicated items and I see the error here, and I go and disable replication. I just say other reason, agent failure, not mandatory, but then I just do it. And then it's disabling the replication. because we don't have an option to retry here. All we have is disable, and then we have to re-enable the machine. Okay, so the disable is done and we no longer see that machine here. Now let's go back to site recovery and then enable replication. All right, so we just need to go through the wizard again. I choose the same server. Next. And then the target VM name. So VMware to Azure website. I just give a random name to the VM in the Azure portal. Next, I choose these things side. Okay, so it kind of picked from the previous configuration. This is the VNet and this is the subnet, and this is the storage account for cache. So that is taken automatically. And the replication policy. And for the test failover, I use a different one, which is the test failover and the subnet which I chose. Rest all okay. The policy is also the one which we created. So looks good. Next, and enable replication. So this time, let's see if the replication gets completed because we followed the Microsoft direction to disable the secure boot. So hopefully it should install the agent now. I will also put this link. So what is the link of this? Let's copy this and put it here. Okay. So let's wait for this to get completed. It is in progress and it is installing the agent. Hopefully it comes completed now. So maybe let's try to take an RDP to the machine. That's the source machine. And let's check if the agent is getting installed. So to do that, if we go to control panel, okay, not yet. We'll just give it some more time then. Okay, so that one, after changing the secure boot option, we disable the secure boot, then the agent is successfully installed. We can see it here. And if we go back home and to the site recovery, replicated items, we see the replication is started. So that's all for this video. Now let's continue in the third video on how to do the test failover. Thank you.